Coming up on today's episode of Technoid, I'm only going to cover two stories today, and that is it. I am going to talk about the Motorola Edge and the Edge Plus, and I will give my honest opinion on whether it could have been a better flagship phone had it did one small thing. I'll discuss what that thing is later on in the video, and also a follow-up to Apple replacing Intel with their Mac lineup. According to Bloomberg, it'll be happening next year, and I'll explain the models that they predict will happen. All of that on today's episode, so stay tuned. Hey, what is up everybody? Michael here. Welcome back to Technoid. Now guys, I want to be very serious right now. I'm not trying to make the mood a little bit low today, but yesterday, one of my closest friends passed away. It was really a heartbreaking thing. Today I was going to take off to remember him, but in honor of my friend and who he was and knowing how much of a hard worker he was, I know he wouldn't want me to just sit around being depressed and not just do anything. I used to work with him. We used to go to school together. We kept in touch. He used to get me into MMA. He trained me with boxing. He was really a close, good friend. So I'm not going to take a day off. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it in memory of him. So like I said at the beginning of this video is dedicated to the memory of my dear friend, Andrew. I'm going to miss you, man. You take it easy up there, and we will one day meet again. So this video is dedicated to Andrew DeVito. May you rest in peace. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get this video going. So story number one, let's kick it up. Before we talk about Motorola, let's get the Apple stuff out of the way. So a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, I forgot exactly the time difference, I talked about how Apple was going to replace Intel CPUs with their in-based CPU making. Now, I reported that Ming-Chi Kuo had confirmed that future Macs, starting in 2021, were going to be getting their own ARM-based processors made and manufactured by Apple. Now, he didn't say exactly what Macs were going to be used. Well, according to Bloomberg, it looks like Bloomberg has a better layout of how it's going to go. So in the article, they do explain the same thing that Ming-Chi Kuo says. They are going to be switching the Macs to ARM-based processors made by Apple. But instead of putting them on the Pro lines right away, they're going to start with the lower end models and then work their way up. Now, the first Mac they threw out was the MacBook Air, the iMac, and then they said eventually they will get to the point where they can start doing Pros. The reason why they don't want to put it on the Pros right away is if in the event that something doesn't work out or they need more time to make Pro-based processors, they can use the smaller ones as kind of their beta testing, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's how Apple works, beta testers. But then they will make their way to the Pros. Now, for me, honestly, if I'm making my own CPUs and I'm putting them in my own products, if I was Apple, instead of putting them in the Air and the iMac, the smallest base one you should start with is the Mac Mini. It's the cheapest Mac in the lineup. It's one of the smaller Macs, and honestly, that really is your beta tester. You could use that port, you can do everything you want. And for me, the Mac Mini makes more sense. While it's smaller and probably not as portable, it's meant to be an entry-level Mac because you don't have to get the monitor or speaker. You'll have to get those things individually, but some people prefer the Mac Mini. So for me, I would think the Mac Mini would be a better ideal situation to use. But of course, Apple knows the game plan and we don't know. Now, we don't know exactly when this is going to happen with the situation of everything happening right now, if that could affect manufacturing and everything. But the time frame is going to be in 2021. We don't know exactly when or how it's going to happen, but 2021 is the target date, so I'll keep you up to date on everything that happens from that point forward. And story number two, the last story up, the Motorola phones. Now, yesterday there was a virtual announcement for the Motorola Edge and the Motorola Edge Plus. Now for me, I did not watch this. I didn't catch it until I was live with Sam and all them from last night, and that's when I started doing some research. And honestly, I gotta say, this phone looks like a pretty good phone, but there is one crucial element that they messed up on. So let me explain the phone and then I'll discuss. So there are two variants. You have the Motorola Edge and the Motorola Edge Plus. The Motorola Edge Plus is the flagship. That's really the one you should really buy, and I'll explain why. So starting with the Motorola Edge, you have a 6.7-inch hole punch display. It is a AMOLED display, but HDR10. Remember that, because when we get to the Plus, you're going to want to know something. It has a triple camera setup, and I believe it has a 64 megapixel triple camera with a telephoto, ultra wide, and a time of flight sensor. You have 5G with sub-6 support. So Sam, you got your sub-6 in there. And of course, it has a 4500 milliamp hour battery. Now, for 4500 milliamp hour, that is very, very good considering what most phones price at and have battery-wise. And it has dual speakers tuned by an audio company. I'm not too familiar with them. Waves Audio. They must be very good. I'll do some more research on Waves and inform you. But if anybody knows anything about Waves, comment them down below. But that's the Motorola Edge. The price tag for that phone is, I believe, $699. I don't have the exact numbers with me, but for a base end, that is very good. Now, there are some cutbacks from the Plus, which you're going to find out in just a second. But honestly, at that price range, the Edge, that's actually a very, very good phone. That's actually very good. Now we get to the Edge Plus, that's where the tables turn. So same storage, same size, everything. You have a 6.7-inch display, except this time it is actually a much better display at HDR10+. You have a triple camera setup with better quality cameras. They are 108 megapixel triple camera layout, so you have your sensor and everything like that. So obviously cameras are much better on the Motorola Plus. Then you have your 5G millimeter wave and sub-6, so that one has better representation for 5G. I'll explain what that means in just a second. You also, again, true wireless audio, and it has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. 5,000, that is excellent battery for the Motorola Edge Plus. Now this phone starts at $999 and comes with 5G support that you need to know, but also one thing I forgot to add that the Motorola Edge Plus has over the Edge is wireless charging. Now, for some reason, I don't get why they didn't put wireless charging on the Edge, but I guess they want to distinguish it for price and stuff. But honestly, for $699, I could get an iPhone 11 with 2 cameras, and it gives me wireless charging. So, I don't know. But focusing on the Edge Plus, that is actually a very, very good phone. I didn't think that I would really be looking at Motorola like this, in a sense, because Motorola makes some okay phones, but this one really is actually putting them on the map. This phone is a flagship with everything you need. 90 hertz display, which is more than enough. I think 120 is overkill, but more value, the better. But then you also, one thing I didn't even mention, and probably you don't even know, it has a headphone jack. $999 with a headphone jack? Well, the price is a little iffy, but honestly, it's a great device. But there is one problem with the Edge Plus over the Edge. The Edge Plus is an exclusive to Verizon, which is why it supports the millimeter wave 5G, and you can only use it on Verizon signal. Now, there are some workarounds, but it is more optimized and made more for Verizon signal. And that is my main negative, because this phone is now limited to its consumers. Where OnePlus was able to branch out and reach out to Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile, sorry, not AT&T, T-Mobile, they were able to expand and get more customers into the OnePlus experience. With Motorola, they have an exclusive deal with Verizon, which is all great and well, but they're missing out on so much more potential customers. And I just feel that limiting the Plus, the better version, to Verizon only doesn't give you an advantage. It actually leaves you at a disadvantage because you're cutting out so much profit, so much money to be made by limiting it to just the Edge. And that is available with any carrier. But again, nobody's gonna buy the Edge because it's lacking on a few things that most people do use nowadays. Like, for example, better camera, longer battery, wireless charging, and even an IP rating. Now, both phones don't have an IP rating. They are splash resistant, but I think the Plus version is a little bit better protected, so that one is a little bit more splash resistant than the other. But that's not the point. The point is the Plus is really the flagship. That's the phone you would want to get. But being limited to Verizon is a downgrade, in my opinion. Not a downgrade in anything, but just a downgrade in your experience. Because now you're locked into Verizon, you can't use anything else, and you've basically limited how many customers can use your phone. Now, like I said, there are workarounds, there are some ways you could get rid of the Verizon exclusivity, but at the end of the day, this phone can only be bought through Verizon. And I think that sucks because this phone actually has enough to make itself a worthy flagship. But that's just my opinion, and if you don't agree with it, you're fine to disagree. And that's it for today's episode of Technoid. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button. If you disliked the video, hit the dislike button. That helps circulate the videos. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Everybody take care, stay safe, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Take care, everybody, and Peace.